While Australia has deployed military forces overseas fairly consistently since 1863, did you know that only three of those deployments have been independent, and even then, only one of them was entirely of our own volition? In 1883, the colonial government of Queensland sent a police magistrate to annex what we now know as Papua, acting in response to growing concerns over a newly unified Germany and its imperial aspirations in the South Pacific. Now, while they did send word to Britain informing of this course of action, they also didn't wait for a response before they acted, and, as you would expect, when Britain found out about this, they immediately disavowed the act and refused to ratify the decision, stating that Queensland, as a colony, lacked the constitutional authority to claim territory of its own. Now, this decision was immediately reversed when Germany colonised the neighbouring region of New Guinea, prompting Britain to establish the British Protectorate of Papua, which eventually was given to Australia for administration after 1901. This move actually set into motion the next independent deployment of Australian forces when, at the 1912 Imperial Defence Conference, Britain informed the governments of Australia and New Zealand that in the event of the war that everyone knew was coming, should Britain enter on the side against Germany, Australia and New Zealand would occupy, not annex, German colonial holdings in the South Pacific. This was in part to protect vital trade lines, but also was to prevent the burgeoning imperialist Japanese Empire from taking that same territory, as while at the time Britain had an alliance with them, they didn't trust them. In response, within days of the declaration of war, in 1914, Australia raised the Australian Naval and Military Expeditionary Force to capture German New Guinea. This was after the Royal Australian Navy assisted New Zealand forces in capturing German Samoa. This is on top of the raising of the Australian Imperial Force. This is technically the first time Australian forces are wholly under Australian command. Despite it being a British directive, they had no direct involvement. In fact, it wouldn't be until 1999 that Australia would again deploy military forces independently. Following the East Timor independence referendum and the subsequent violence caused by Indonesian-backed militias, Australia proposed, led and contributed the largest portion of the peacemaking force known as INTERFET, or the International Force East Timor. While Australia took the initiative and commanded the operation, it did so under United Nations mandate, but it wasn't a UN operation. Interestingly, though, despite gaining the ability to declare war in 1947 following the ratification of the Statute of Westminster, which gave the former British Dominions autonomy in their foreign affairs, Australia has never actually exercised its diplomatic power. Instead, Australia's military deployments have overwhelmingly been shaped by its alliances and obligations to the three Uniteds: the United Kingdom, the United States, and the United Nations.